Let's start with a culture story. One of the things I have learned on my entrepreneurial activity or initiatives is that no matter which business we are or which sector we operate, we are in education business. Because if the customer doesn't understand how to use our product, they probably won't gonna buy it anymore. If our team does not understand why we do what we do, they don't engage, they don't commit. If our suppliers don't understand the direction we're going, they have no way to make a contribution, a valuable contribution to our goal, our purpose, our ecosystem. So one of the things that's very important into this is how to actually build education, a continuous learning and teaching culture in a company. But I would like to start asking you, there's so many strong culture companies out there, and what's your experience? How do you see? Is that something that makes sense, that the education is part of everyone's business?
Yeah, I definitely think that, and that is one of the elements of the acronym that we use, tactile, right, is learning, right? So learning organization. Yes. And I think the culture, of course, all the great conscious companies have wonderful cultures, right? Whether it's Southwest Airlines or Whole Foods or Container Store or Patagonia or REI or Trader Joe or Wegmans or any of these companies. You walk into them, you can feel the vibrancy, the air of excitement that Container Store talks about. I think the company that right now is an illustration of the power of culture and a cultural transformation is Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And under Satya Nadella, when he came in as a new leader, that often happens if you have a dysfunctional culture, you need a new leader to come in and then implement a new culture. And so Microsoft had a very dysfunctional culture under Bill Gates and then especially under Steve Ballmer. It was very sort of bombastic, non-cooperative, highly aggressive, and lacking purpose and core values, right? And then Satya Nadella came in as the company was kind of declining and becoming irrelevant, and he came in as a leader and he looked around and he said, we need a new purpose and we need a new culture and we need a new strategy and all of those. So he completely revamped this company. But within a matter of a couple of years, he took this massive company and changed the culture dramatically, right? And he brought in elements like empathy, which you would never associate with Microsoft before, but a culture of empathy. And he did that by manifesting these things himself. I believe the leader has to be a walking embodiment of the culture. Right? If you're trying to create one kind of culture, but you yourself as the CEO have a different kind of energy to you, it's not going to work. So he brought in that deep sense of empathy that he himself possesses, was very open and vulnerable with his leadership team. When he first met them, shared about his own journey, his challenges, his special needs child, growing up, all of those things at a very personal level, right? So empathy, and then the other side was a growth mindset, which is about learning. So this was a company that was full of smart people who were experts in their particular domain, right? Yeah. And he said, well, that's not going to allow us to grow and evolve as the world changes. That's why we missed so many of the big changes that were going on, the mobile revolution, the cloud revolution, all of those things. Why? Because we were stuck in our own expertise silos, right? So we ought to create a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset, so that everybody is continually learning and growing and evolving. Because the world is changing faster than ever, as we know. And again, he modeled all of these things himself. So it is quite dramatic, the change that has made. And Microsoft's culture is now one of the most powerful cultures out there. And if you look at the company and the success that they have had in his 7 or 8 years as CEO, I mean, they went from 300 billion to about 2.6 trillion in market value. No company has ever achieved that kind of financial success, but it wasn't focused on financial success. That was the outcome. He was focused on a new purpose, a new culture, and a new strategy, very much all aligned with the idea of conscious capitalism. And the results have been astounding.
Yeah. So it's amazing how this connects actually with stakeholder. Once you drop the focus on the shareholder and actually focus on the whole ecosystem and bring a stronger culture, is recovering. He recovered Microsoft from it actually where it came from.
And yeah, very much. I mean, in the old days, their salespeople would go and they would just go to a company and say, okay, how can we sign a new license for Microsoft Office or whatever else you're doing, right? Their focus and their compensation all was based upon maximizing revenue. That's all Steve
Yeah.
cared about. And now under Nadella, it's about how can we solve your problems? How can we help your business? Right. And the revenue we get from you is secondary. It's a result of that, but that's not our primary goal. So they become much more better listeners, right? And problem solvers, because they started to think about the real needs that people have.
Yeah. Now here you started talking about the acronym we share in the field guide for culture, tactile. Can you just, cover that for us? Because I think this actually explains and makes it really robust understanding for what a culture should be.
Yeah, so tactile, first of all, the word means something you can feel, right? Tactile is something that, you can actually get a feel of the texture of something, right? And that's important because a culture is generally considered intangible and invisible, right? You can't really see it, but you can feel it. You walk into one of these companies, you feel the vibrancy and the air of excitement and the love and the passion and the purpose, all of that, right? So that's what it results in. Now, the qualities of a conscious and caring culture are these 7 that we have found to be quite common, and they could be additional, right? Every company has its own unique values as well, but it starts with trust. Trust is one of the most important things and one of the least present things in our world. There's a decline of trust everywhere. People don't trust the government. They don't trust institutions. They don't trust, they don't trust many societal institutions. So the trust is very important, right? Having trust within the company, between leaders and employees, but also with your other stakeholders. Second is authenticity. That we also sometimes use accountability. So authenticity and accountability. Right? Authenticity is being able to say what you mean and mean what you say without having to pretend something is not the case. People are able to show up as who they are, right? Accountability, which means you will do what you promise. Because very often it can happen in a company. Medtronic was like that when Bill George came there. It was a culture that was rooted in love and care. People really were nice to each other, but they were not accountable. They never kept their promises. They always missed their deadlines, and so forth, right? So you can't have that. So you have to have accountability. The C is for caring. So that's again love and care, right? You have to have genuine care. And by the way, another mantra of Microsoft now is model, coach, and care, right? As a leader, you have to model the behavior you want to see, you have to coach people, and you have to genuinely care for each other as human beings. So again, care is central. The next T is for transparency. Right? So there are no secrets. Everybody knows what's really going on. And then integrity, right, which is non-negotiable. Everything we do has to be above ground, and there's ethics and there's honesty and all of that. Learning, as we talked about, and then empowerment. Right? Everybody is empowered, to take decisions and to do things. It's not a hierarchical, you have to ask for permission from above. In these companies, ordinary people are able to take decisions on the spot that they know will be good for the company and good for customers. So that's what defines a strong culture, is tactile.
It's amazing how every time we come back to what's the content of the field guide, it's so powerful and is actually so encompassing, so broad, and when you look at other publications, you can see that what we actually have consolidated here is something so much deeper, and it can be explored over and over and over, and just keeps adding value. And the example you gave in terms of Microsoft, how they recovered, how they recuperated, and how much that actually has generated in terms of financial value as a consequence, not as the goal itself. Now, other than that, like those great examples, there's something different happening in the world, like great resignation. A significant portion of the workforce is thinking or considering quitting their jobs. How can the culture change this? Tactile gave us a lot of insight, but there's something missing on those companies, right?
Well, yeah. So it's not just culture, but it's also a sense of meaning and purpose, right? So people want purpose and meaning in their lives. And when we were on a treadmill of constantly working and doing all of that, we never had time to think about that. But in the pandemic, many people, not everybody obviously, but many people got the opportunity to step back and think about their life in a more holistic, integrated way, and realize that their work was slowly killing them, and what wasn't going to amount to ultimately anything meaningful at the end of their lives. And so now every human aspires to that, and most people think they don't have the luxury of actually living a life of meaning and purpose. But that's become more of a prominent thing in many people's value systems. So they want meaning and purpose, and they also want to be in a place where they feel valued and seen as human beings, right? So the culture and the purpose and values, all of these things start to matter a lot more. So people are leaving those kinds of jobs where they're treated without respect or dignity, and they don't have any meaning and purpose. And so that's really how we are going to attract and keep people, right, is by providing those elements. But again, we do those elements not simply in a tactical way to reduce the turnover, but because that's ultimately what people want and need in this world, right? And we should do it for that reason. And then the business benefits will be dramatic. So the companies that offer those things will have a bigger competitive advantage over the companies that don't in the environment going forward.
Yeah. And you know, I had a conversation with a Uber driver, and he asked him, what were you doing before? So I was a manager at a fast food chain store, and he say, and now it's much better. Say, oh, are you making more money as an Uber driver? No, I'm living better. Is that more money? Say, no, more money doesn't mean they're going to have a better life. So I think people understood that the balance is like more money will not bring you a better life. There's a different values to take into account. So this is a great conversation, but what role does a culture play in leveraging the corporate purpose and strengthening the stakeholder relationship? You know, how can the culture reach out and beyond the corporate walls? Because we always talk about culture as something inside, but how does that leverage purpose and actually, you know, invite other people to join the party?
Yeah, so again, all of these tenets of conscious capitalism are connected to each other, right? So the purpose and the core values has to be in harmony with the culture and has to be something that the stakeholders all also resonate with and care about. So again, they're all linked together, right? And so even if you just do one of them, you will make a difference in the business. But if you do all of them and make sure that they are consistent with each other, then there's a multiplicative effect, right? So the culture and the values have to be in harmony with the purpose, right? And they have to be things that all the stakeholders care about. So when you do that, then it's going to extend to everybody, right? That culture is going to be felt. In Whole Foods, for example, you know, suppliers are treated the same as employees, right? In many ways. In the past, they were treated as outsiders, right? But in these conscious companies, they're part of the family, right? They're part of the conversation, etc. So again, the culture then impacts them even more directly. So thinking about all of these things as interconnected and in a holistic way is really what we need to do.
Wow, and that's a tremendous invitation for people actually to go through all the 4 tenets, not just, you know, this culture, but look into stakeholder purpose and, you know, what we're going to talk next, leadership. Excellent.
Thank you.